Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky, a podcast where I sit down with some of my friends in the local Columbus, Ohio theater, film, and improv scene and talk a bunch of geeky stuff. Some of it good, some of it bad, but all of it definitely geeky. If you enjoy our program, be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and to leave a review or subscribe wherever you can get podcasts. Our official sponsor of the show is Audible. With over 200,000 titles to choose from, get one audiobook and 2 Audible originals each month included with your trial, even once your trial ends and normal membership begins. Best part is you own your library, meaning you keep the books even if you cancel with easy exchanges. So if you don't love a book, swap it out for free anytime. Sign up for your free trial over at audibletrial.com/goodbadgeeky. Download the Audible app and start enjoying your new audiobook now. Also, support for this podcast has been made possible by our Kickstarter backers, Ashley Carson, Catherine Ranella, Wooz, Yannick, Doug Poeta, Christopher LeBlanc, Andrew, Kenny, Jerome Wetzel, Casey May, Anonymous, Tavia Ordway, Anthony Portillo, Jen and Brian Petrie, Guest 16554255418, Laura Spires, Kimberly Barr, Kyle Jepson. We here at The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky want to advise listeners that this episode was recorded during the pandemic between the end of 2019 and the end of 2020. In this episode, I am here with
Amanda.
Oh, God. Kyle.
Jessica.
Oh, and Jessica.
As we sit down and we talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol, on this episode, guys, we're nailing this intro. On this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky. And a word of warning that there will be spoilers aplenty, not just on this, and well, pretty much anything the Muppets that we talk about, and Christmas Carol. So listener, beware. And if there's anything you want to say about Christmas Carol, the Muppets, or the Muppet Christmas Carol, join in on the conversation by interacting with us via social media or email. Twitter and Instagram is username goodbadgeeky, or email me at goodbadgeeky@gmail.com. We may read your comment on a future episode of the show.
Rolling.
All right. So everyone, we are going to talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol, which was supposed to be the first film at the beginning of the Disney Muppet merger, which actually didn't happen until many years later. It's also the first film that is, unfortunately, after Richard Hunt and Jim Henson passed away. So there's a lot riding on the film, personally, I would say, and also professionally for the Muppet gang. And of course, it's a Christmas Carol, which in itself, at the time we're recording, it's like a few days before Christmas. It's very present. It's very, around us at all times, or because Christmas is here. And then also it's weird because we're recording this during COVID pandemic because, thumbs up. But there's a lot of things that are interesting about Christmas Carol, Muppet Christmas Carol in particular, just because it's trying to do a Muppet thing. It's also trying to do the Christmas Carol. And it's also, so there's a lot writing on the film in terms of what it's trying to accomplish. And we're going to hopefully talk about that and see if it works. We might talk about some other Christmas carols too. So I want to start off with Amanda. What did you think of the film? I mean, because we just also rewatched it with the scene that was not initially in the theatrical version, When Love Is Gone. So we'll go around, and Amanda, what did you think?
Yeah, so I fucking love this movie. Like, I honestly, though, I had never seen the Love Is Gone scene before tonight.
Oh, wow, really? Okay, awesome.
Yep. I had never seen it, and I do think it's a good addition, as I cried. And Kyle is looking like, what the hell is going on?
A good addition.
But I grew up on this. Like, my brother and I watched it all the time. We had the VHS, and we had it in my dad's conversion van that had the VCR and the TV in the back. And This is one that we watched a lot because we would have like 4 or 5 movies in there. And this is one of the ones we watched like on repeat, even outside of Christmas time. The live action Jungle Book was one. There's some of those that we just watched over and over again.
Jason Scott Lee.
Yes.
Yes.
By the way, just to point out, I think of that movie. I haven't rewatched it since I was in high school, but my memory of it is that I greatly enjoyed that movie.
I love that movie.
And I don't know if it's my nostalgia going, no, it was a great movie. And then if I rewatched it, I was like, oh, was it, Nick? Was it? But
what movie was this?
So probably around the same time Muppet Christmas Carol came out, Disney did a live action version of The Jungle Book by Kipling. And
with Hot Mowgli?
Yes, Hot Mowgli.
Yes, Hot Mowgli.
Okay,
and
okay.
John Cleese is in it too. He plays
Lena Headley's dad. He's like the dad. Yeah, I remember this because it's like one of the very, very few good live action Disney like anythings, right?
Honestly, yeah. Like that's the so that's the interesting thing too to point out. I actually enjoyed the Favreau Jungle Book. I thought they actually did considering that they were remaking the animated movie and not the book like the the 90s version was. I rewatched the animated film. It's a bunch of segments that are just seemingly tied together, which from my memory, that's what the book was too, but like you still kind of need a better narrative, and I think Favreau found that. But anyway,
and like Favreau, I feel like he just doesn't really have a great grasp on how to tell a story in our day of December 21st, 2020. He's just not going to do a whole lot. I don't know.
You're right. I don't.
I feel just I feel like he has a lot of potential. I just don't know. I don't know where he's gonna go. I just don't know.
Oh my god, that's so layered. It's beautiful. Chef's kiss.
I mean, this would have been layered in like when did 2008? When did the original Iron Man come out? When like I was like Jon Favreau is doing a superhero movie.
Yeah, that was like 2008.
And I was like, oh, they're doing a super. Oh, it's good. Oh, it has Robert Downey Jr.
Entire new.
But I mean, I think it's like really clear that Jon Favreau does not know how to do anything.
He only made my favorite all-time Christmas movie. It's cool.
Yeah. He also like didn't figure out like how to like. I feel like among like chefs, and Amanda, you know this because like you're a Bon Appetit fan, but like I feel like a lot of chefs feel like Jon Favreau did chef movies right too.
Yes, they're always like, oh, that's correct.
Can I just, again, we're still in this random tangent. Can I just point out though that my favorite part of that movie, and I can't ever look at it right, and it's like a running joke between my wife and I, is anytime I see a lava cake, I just instantly think to, it's like, fucking hard it is to do a lava cake. You have it be molten hot on the inside and just nicely warm on the outside. Fuck you, or whatever. I just think of that and I just...
Oh, yeah, no. So, anytime I see a lava cake nowadays, I'm just like, I'm kind of turned on. And I'm like, oh, that's hot. That's hot.
And the best part is like, not only do you feel for him in that moment, you also feel for Oliver Platt because he's like, oh shit. We're seeing a meltdown, like, and I'm the cause of it, kind of. Anyway, so Kyle, what did you think of the Muppet Christmas Carol?
Let's see. I wouldn't go so far as to say like I saw this movie in theaters and I've loved it since then, but I definitely own this movie in like the white clam case, like typical, Disney packaging. I don't know what you would call it, but
yeah, what do they call that? That's it. But yeah, that
clam case is like I think it's clam case. I could be wrong, but yeah. Oh my god, just this movie has been a part of me growing up until now. I love it so much. It's so good, and it hits all the feels, and I love it so much.
Awesome. All right, well, Jess, what did you think of the film?
So I loved it. I actually had never seen this movie until last year when Colleen was like, how have you not seen this movie? And she put it on the TV in front of me and I sat and watched it and went home and bought the album. And
you're such a movie person, Jess, that you've never seen this, like, boggles my mind.
Kyle, I love the Muppets. Like, I used to watch the Muppet Show all the time and the Muppet Babies and all of the Muppet movies, and
you didn't see this until your 30s, like not at all.
It'd be one thing if Jess was like, I've never seen the Muppet Wizard of Oz. I would be like, that's fine. Just see the Muppet Wizard of Oz because it's terrible.
But I've seen that one. I've seen Muppets in Space. Like, I've seen them all.
So wait, you've also seen Muppet Treasure Island?
I fucking love Muppet Treasure Island.
Of all the weird things, I just feel
Muppet
like
it's still Muppet.
Oh my goodness.
Treasure Island, I maintain, is where my kind of weird sexual attraction to Tim Curry came from.
That's where it started, okay?
Exactly. It's kind of where I was like, oh, who is this?
Yeah, I love this. I love it. I love the Muppets, and Michael Caine looks like he's having a hella good time making this movie. So,
which is a hard thing to do too, because he also, and this is why I know sometimes people watch something and go, well, that was an Academy Award winning performance, but I feel like he might not should have won, but he should have at least been nominated, just because it's really hard to act with the Muppets. He's doing this weird little dance, which if you notice, he's like totally into it at that point.
It's just like
I did on stage when I played a 50s mom in high school.
Literally, that's like anytime I want to be awkward, I do like the Michael Caine dance from the Muppets.
It's really hard to act with Muppets just for the sheer like technicalities that you have to go through.
Yeah.
I remember reading an article about like Alf and how the people hated working on Alf because it's like trapdoors all over the fucking place. So if you step wrong, you're gonna die and like all of
Oh
that.
God.
Well,
That's
I
what
also
I'm-
heard rumors that the guy who plays Alf is a fucking douchebag.
Well, yeah.
Well, beyond even that, it kind of goes like, have you ever seen, like, we're talking early Sesame Street, like 1970s, which Sesame Street, those are technically Muppets. They are.
Oh, they are.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are. But like you have those cute, like where Kermit is with like a blonde child and it's like A B C you are Cookie Monster.
That's
like,
not the right thing. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, cookie.
and, like
yeah.
it's like that, and like those are technically Muppets, and you, oh god, you see that stuff and it's so
I've
wonderful.
also probably seen every freaking movie Jim Henson had a hand in, except this movie.
That is
So, well,
magnificent because like
technically-
Jessica, I view you as an authority on movies. So
Ew.
Amanda, you too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be.
Well, no, again, Amanda, you've actually seen the Muppet Christmas Carol
Yeah, as a
before your
child.
30s, so, you know, it makes sense. My favorite Muppet movie, almost outside of the original one. But, like, I don't know why. I was just being a grumpy Gus, an old man young of the cloud. I was mad that they were carrying on Kermit without Jim Henson. I was that bitter, like, well, I don't like it, blah, 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 blah. And by the time I finally really watched it, I saw it probably like maybe 5 years after high school, and I was like, this is actually a really good movie. And now I love it every year. Like, we watch it, we have to watch it. And I'm also that stickler who goes, so my wife bought the Blu-ray because I'm me and she knows me, and she's like, well, let's upgrade our version. And it does not have the When Love Is Gone on it. And so I have to watch a crappier DVD version of the transfer, but I don't care. It's just like it's the same thing with Return of the Jedi. I refuse to watch Vader scream no. I just refuse. And even though the other Blu-rays are actually, I think, pretty good, I can stomach them. I don't, with any changes, I can't do the Blu-ray of Return of the Jedi. It's the same thing here. I can't do it.
So Nick, what I'm hearing is you want the German version where he falls down and screams, "Do not want."
Oh my God. Is that seriously what he says?
There is no, I'm
Oh,
sorry. God,
damn it.
fucking Star Wars fans don't fucking come for me because there was some kind of like pan-Pacific, like Japanese, Chinese, some kind of like dub or sub that basically, and you can look this up, where during episode 3 when they reveal Darth Vader and instead of like at the end where he screams no, the subtitle literally reads "Do not want."
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone badly translated something.
Oh, and it was like there was something like where they put it through like, you know, like 3 different levels of like English to Japanese or some language back to English, and there's like this weird like 5-tier where nothing makes sense, and it turned like no to do not want, and there are so many like hilarious kind of like weird bad translations that are amazing.
Well, you know, and here's the thing, and I'm going to tie this into Christmas Carol. You just wait for it. I understand wanting to, as a creative, wanting to present the best work in the vision that you saw it in, but sometimes I don't necessarily understand how Lucas approaches things sometimes, like, I mean, and hopefully I've heard Disney is going to attack it from, we're going to release all the different, all the main different versions at some point so we can get your money. And of course, I will be like, oh, the original theater version of Star Wars. I will pay money for that.
Buy it all over again.
Exactly. I will gladly pay.
Come over. I have the VHS. Let's watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of Christmas Carol, though, the original version was the only thing, and I'm surprised he didn't learn his lesson. Katzenberg, who was still at Disney at the time, he said that When Love Is Gone needed to be cut from the film. And it's not that he didn't like the song. It's just that kids are going to get bored. And I don't know if they did a test screening and that was the case, but he's like, it's also slow. The pacing of the movie just comes to a halt and you need to cut it. And he goes, but you're Brian Henson. You do whatever you want to do. And Brian being, I think that was his first major film that he directed.
It was after his father's death. Yeah. My brother and I were
Yeah.
talking about it last week.
Yeah.
This
'cause
is what we do in our normal lives, is talk about Muppets.
there was an article recently about this, which is kind of what started the whole thing too of we got to watch the When Love Is Found version of because apparently Katzenberg's like, and if you do cut it, here's the trade-off. I will let you put it in every future home release, how you meant it to be seen, but for theatrical purposes, so we can make more money, let's cut it out. And apparently it was only in the VHS transfer and then the first DVD transfer, and then it was just completely lost. And they supposedly found the negative so they can digitally clean it up and put it to the full cut. So they're doing like a 4K edit, thank God. But
that's what I remember is like I had that clamshell VHS, of Muppet Christmas Carol. And I remember like watching it and being like really wrecked by When Love Is Gone.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a powerful, and it's one of those weird things. It wasn't until I started dating Sarah because we would watch it every year. I wouldn't watch it every year at that point. When I started dating Sarah, we would watch it every year. And it just, I don't know why it didn't really hit me before, or I would remember it. It was the thematical purpose of it is just so important. Not only does it wreck you it really wrecks you when Michael Caine sang. Because dude can't sing that well, but he does it wonderfully in that because he's Michael Caine, yeah.
No, him singing behind her, like me being very young, I remember like watching that and going, "Oh God, I don't want this." Which we're not going to go into like the therapy reminder of like why that happened, but I remember like watching that and going like, "This is wonderful. I never want this to happen to me."
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking too because then at the end of the movie they do the whole "When Love Is Found," and it's
that's the thing. When I was watching it, I was like, it makes sense because it's literally it's like mirrored at the end.
Yeah, it's the follow through of like they have "When Love Is Gone," and like when you do the reprise of it, it makes no especially with what they're doing now, it makes no GD sense. Which Nick is going to go into we'll say controversial opinion of the song. I think they could have cut to keep that song in.
Well, and it doesn't make sense that they're like, oh, this kids won't like this. My favorite movie as a 2-year-old was The Land Before Time.
I watched The Sound of Music and Dirty Dancing every day.
Well, you also got to remember, Katzenberg was also the genius that said, I like the song, but you need to cut a part of your world from Little Mermaid.
Yeah, Katzenberg is the person who we'll say championed direct VHS sequels, which led us to Cinderella 2.
Well, but we got The Lion King 2 out of that.
Yeah, I mean, there were among the few dozen, there were maybe one or two good ones.
Scary Curtain! Sorry. So in the
fuck?
That's a thing in my family. So the direct-to-video Christmas sequel to Beauty and the Beast, Tim Curry, bringing it back around, he voices the organ, but when my little sister Faith was little, she called it the Scary Curtain. And so every time I think of that movie, I think of tiny Faith being like, "Scary Curtain."
Oh my goodness.
That's I'm just thinking of all these movies we grew up on. I loved The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, slow as fuck. The Secret of Nim, anything.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I don't know if they've ever released Jim Henson's initial genius plan for The Dark Crystal because I rewatched the Netflix. It was on Netflix when they did the sequel series. I rewatched the original, and all the Skizniks or whatever, they have subtitles, or Xyz, they have the subtitles for when they talk. But Jim Henson's original plan was, because I read his biography, he was just like, I want to show the art of puppetry that you don't need dialogue that you can understand. Because apparently they asked him, well, what are they saying? And he's like, well, you just have to watch the movie and that you visually will tell. And it's like, no, and because some of it's just like, they're doing exposition about the crystal, and you're just like, So I would be interested too to see. Jim Henson did the Ninja Turtle movie, and I would love to see the original edit, the original ending. Yeah, oh my God, yeah. He didn't like the violence in the first movie, but he did all the Jim Henson's Muppet stuff.
The concept work they did
technically the Turtles are Muppets and Splinter. Kevin Clash, who does Elmo, is the voice of Splinter. Yeah, he performs, him and 2 other people perform Splinter, like an old, kind of like Swedish Chef kind of deal with a little bit more animatronics. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, Jim Henson Workshop, isn't it?
Before most of them were taken out by CGI.
Wow.
Yeah, my boy Max Rebo. He's my favorite Muppet.
Started out on SNL too. The first season of SNL, there were Muppets.
Yes, there were. Thank you. Nick, feel free to fucking cut this out. But literally, I found my VHS trilogy of the first Star Wars movies, and I called my mom to be like, do you have a VHS player? Because that's literally no doubt. I don't want to replay the original trilogy in like the crappy CGI remake.
Well, some of it is just, it's weird, man. Yeah, we're going on this tangent. Sorry. It's really weird that they do the whole like Cy Snoodles and her band. Like, that's one of the weirdest puppets ever, weirdest designs ever, and they pull it off. And it's all like puppetry. And I don't mind that they added the song in. It's just that it's all CGI. And that's the thing that kind of makes me just sad about that. But
well, it's like, there's one thing if it's like good, but God, that CGI is so of its time. It's kind of painful to watch, is my big thing.
Yeah. Anywho, yeah. So the song that Kyle said was controversial that she would cut is, weirdly enough, my favorite song, which is why I was like, oh, we definitely going to talk about this, because it's the song that always makes me cry outside of When Love Is Gone. It like, if it's like a 1-2 punch. If depending on how I'm feeling during the day, like I cried during that and I cried during things when we were watching it tonight. But sometimes for whatever reason, like I don't cry during When Love Is Gone. Oh, I definitely cried during the Tiny Tim song. And
yeah, no, I don't like it.
Actually, they're very similar.
They are, thank you. And like I also think that could be swapped out for When Love Is Gone and it would be fine. I feel like you don't need sympathy for the Tiny Tim family, aka Kermit and Miss Piggy. You don't need it because you're gonna have it.
I think it's crucial to showing Scrooge's arc, because that's where he really starts to soften, is seeing, because they've just insulted him and he's kind of sad again, but then he sees, oh, they all love each other. And that's where I feel like he starts to really crystallize that Christmas spirit at the end of the Christmas present day.
Yeah, I know. That's fair. That's really fair.
It doesn't mean you cannot like the song.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not trying to say like I hate, like I'm like, I disagree with, like, you're totally right, Amanda. I feel like there was a good middle ground between Bless Us All and between When Love Is Gone.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that you got to think about is that, and I understand from a business decision too why Katzenberg was saying that, is there's no Muppets in the scene. You have Muppets, all of them, or at least one of them singing in some of the other songs, or you know what I mean? But in that one, you don't have any at all. And when they do show up, it's at the end of the song, which is good. I think Henson did a good job of that. Brian did not have, because that shouldn't be the focus, is Gonzo and Rizzo doing jokes during that. It's an emotional heartbeat of the film. So,
well, my big thing is when they cut it out, it basically went from their conversation pre-song where they're like, well, we can't afford a house, da-da. And then like literally it's Belle going, you did once, and walking away, and then like Rizzo and Gonzo are crying. It makes like, it's such a weird jump in emotion. Like
that just a week or so ago. And I think it can make sense, but it does, because they're crying, but so is Scrooge. And you're like, oh man, her saying you did once really killed him. Whoa. Like,
yeah, I guess it's just such
about young Scrooge.
Like they could have at least like done maybe a chorus of it. And it's kind of the same thing with Bless Us All. Like they could have maybe shortened it. They could have done something else with it. Like you didn't need both songs full length in there, but you needed something from each. And removing either or, like, because don't get me wrong, I don't think Bless Us All is great, but I still appreciate that it's in the movie.
Oh yeah, of course. And I think that if there's a part of me that kind of feels like you could have cut Bless Us, I'm completely against that, by the way, but I'm saying if you want to have your cake and eat it too, you could have done that and just replaced it with the scene of him saying the stuff that he is singing about, but a little bit more condensed that way. Because I mean, to build on what Amanda was saying, it's really there. Yeah, it softens Scrooge up, but it also shows that someone who has the world, I mean, because that's the whole point of Tiny Tim. I think Muppet Christmas Carol is also, and just in general, is one of the few Christmas carols that, in my opinion, really make, Tim only has like what, 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes of screen time in every version of Christmas Carol, or it's very small. And I feel like it packs more of a wallop here because of that. And it's what linchpins Scrooge in. The only other thing I can think of, and maybe it's because I grew up with it, was Mickey Christmas Carol.
I mean, I will agree with that. Absolutely.
And it's a very weird thing, because you would figure that Tiny Tim is the linchpin to Scrooge, and that it would be a little bit more. But to be fair, though, too, Christmas Carol in general is hard because everyone tries to do it. Everyone does a variation of it, whether it be completely weirdly off base, like the Doctor Who one, which I actually enjoy too. But there is no Tiny Tim per se. There's a girl that has like a disease and is dying, and is like the love. But it's like Belle and Tiny Tim are combined in that version. But again, so unless you have a variation like that and you move that aside, the core basics that there's a Tiny Tim, it's hard to do. And the other ones aren't bad. It's just that it doesn't sometimes have the same emotional wow up. Also, I love Scrooge McDuck. So anytime you have Scrooge McDuck, his heart melts and shows how good of a duck he is. Oh, I'm tearing up.
Well, and Nick, I was going to say, like,
Yeah.
the Mickey Christmas Carol definitely is kind of up there with, like, my top 5 of, like, the Christmas Carol, like,
weirdly enough,
allegories. I don't know what to call them.
I tend to watch it back to back with this one.
Right? Like, those are that one, and I feel like Scrooged with Bill Murray are in the top 5 for me.
Yeah, well, let's go to that. Jess, and we'll start with you. What are the top 5 Christmas Carol, or as far as you can go up to 5 if you can't think of any? What are your top 5?
Prior to this, the only version that I've seen that I actually enjoy is Mickey's Christmas Carol. And I rewatched it like a week ago, and it is like lightning fast.
30 minutes.
We're done. And
Also that Ghost of Christmas Future is on par with like being terrifying for the Muppet Christmas Carol. Like Muppet Christmas Carol, also with a Scrooge, like Ghost of Christmas Future is freaking terrifying. He is so terrifying.
Yeah.
I've never seen Scrooged. I'm trying to think, because we like used to have them at the video store, like all in a line, like all the Christmas carols. And I can't remember if I've seen any of the other ones. I don't like the Jim Carrey one that much because it's like that early CGI dead-eyed stare that they all have. And I'm like, I'll just watch Mickey. It's fine.
Here's where I'm kind of weird, because like when Nick, when you hosted, I was like, what Jim Carrey special? I have no idea what this is.
Oh, you've never seen the Jim
Oh,
Carrey Christmas Carol?
Animated.
Robert Zemeckis directed.
It's on Disney Plus, Kyle.
It's the same time as like Polar Express came out.
It was a few years
early.
later, same
Yeah.
director.
Does it have the same uncanny valley?
Yeah,
A
like
little.
Oh, it does. Oh no.
behind the eyes.
It's not as bad as Polar Express because it's a few
Yes.
years later.
So we'll talk about this too, about this a little bit, in that the Muppet Christmas Carol is one of the few. Now, I have admittedly and ashamedly had never read all of Muppet Christmas Carol of Charles Dickens, the original 5 staves of the Christmas Carol. I've not read them. I've read like snippets of them, and it's usually in relation to how the Muppet Christmas Carol is considered the one that is the most faithful to the book, because they actually use text outside. Everyone tends to use the one, either 2 lines from the book, which is you want to decrease the surplus population, and the other one is you are nothing more but like a moldy piece of cheese or an upset whatever, and cool whatever. But outside of that, Muppet Christmas Carol is usually pretty faithful. The only thing I don't think they do is ignorance and want, but nobody ever really does that one except for the Jim Carrey version, if anything. And even I think years later, Dickens was like, I shouldn't have put those 2 in. I think that's why most people cut them out, because the Ghost of Christmas Present does a weird thing where he's very jolly, and right before he leaves, supposedly in the book too, he kind of becomes kind of sinister and evil and reveals under his robe the children of ignorance and want, and how you don't want that in the present. And they try they become like zombies, and they try to pull him into the robe or something like that. It's weird. It is. And I get it. It's a ghost story, and that's why I think Dickens included it. But outside of that scene, it's really the only reason to watch the Jim Carrey version is just because of that. And no offense to Carrey, I think Carrey vocally does a good job acting, but the CGI
and
is not
he plays
great.
more than just Scrooge. Like he plays multiple roles in it.
Yeah, he plays the Christmas ghosts. Well, the third one doesn't talk, but I think the other 2 do. I think he plays the children of ignorance and want, and he doesn't play Cratchit. That's played by Gary Oldman, which his design in that movie it throws me off. It's weird too. I don't like that. Anyway,
What you're saying is it's not like the Matthew Morrison Grinch where he's like overtly sexual.
oh, I saw it trending on Twitter, and then I saw a picture of it, and I saw like a 30-second clip, and I was like,
Amanda's horrified.
Mom tried to get me to watch it with her and Carlos, and I saw that Max the dog was played by a human who was sitting in a chair and like in a hot toddy, and I was like, I'm out.
oh my God.
Can't do this shit.
You seem equally horrified. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's such a weird, it's such a weird thing, but Muppet Christmas Carol is very faithful to was trying. I mean, my God, the Marley. Well, Marley was dead to begin with is how the whole book, I mean, that's a hell of a first line. And granted, the twist here is that it's Waldorf and Statler, so it's the Marleys were dead to begin with.
I do love how they adapted the story to like include the Marleys to be Waldorf and Statler. Like that was wonderful.
I also, sorry, you finish, Kyle.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, later on, for any Muppet historians, the entire reason, like, Rizzo and Gonzo were in Muppet Treasure Island with icon Tim Curry was because of this movie. They, like, wanted to try to recreate the power of this.
And they have some similar, like, they carry on the line where it's like, how does she do that? But
yes,
you would never think Gonzo would be a good choice for narrator. But he's perfect. He's the perfect choice for narrator.
He is.
Well, I think a lot of people think Gonzo, and I grew up with Muppet Babies, too, on ABC Saturday morning. So, and that was where the whole weirdo thing, they started calling him a weirdo because they were trying to give him an origin of some kind. Because if not, they call him weird in the Muppet Show and the Muppet movie. He's just weird. He's not a weirdo, and that's his kind of, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think that was one of the things maybe I was just kind of about, because Gonzo's second banana, he's not the first, and so but I'm wrong. I was wrong. He's great first banana technically he's not even really the first banana, but he is technically the storyteller. He's the lead, and he does a really good job with it. Dave Goles is a Gonzo, and then Steve Whitmire, may he continue success outside of the Muppets because he's not there anymore. He was a really good Rizzo the Rat too. I'm actually very sad that Whitmire is not involved with the Muppets anymore, but supposedly he's a dick behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the same with like Frank Oz. Like,
don't you tell me Frank Oz is a dick.
Well, apparently he was a dick with Nick. Can you help me here?
Well, with Jason Segel?
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
with the new Muppet movies, like he was kind of a douchebag about it. And like, it's fine because he's very old school. It's whatever.
I think the difference though is that, and this is where, so Kyle's not wrong at that at all, is that so Jason Segel was a big Muppet fan. And so that's why, like, I think Jess and you and I, we kind of mentioned this last night when I'm doing a D&D game that we're playing, and Jess is in it. And I found there was like, it started off as a joke, but people actually can do it. There's a Muppet Born race that you can do in D&D. And I thought everyone would find that mildly amusing. So we're playing against Muppet. Anyway, and so we're talking about it. And I talked about that a little bit, is how like Gonzo in the original Muppet Show, and I think the Muppet movie, would clean toilets. He was a plumber. And then so Jason Segel, because it's a giant love letter to the Muppets, he started off as the king of toiletries or something, the plumber or the toilet king.
And in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the reason why, actually, is it's a nod to the original Muppet movie. And apparently Dave Goles didn't really seem to didn't bother him, but Frank Oz was like, but you're missing the point of who Gonzo was. Jim would not be happy with this. And they asked his opinion. It wasn't just like he just said, I think this is shit. They asked him, would you consult on it? And he goes, I don't like this and this. Steve Whitmire, who plays Kermit, also apparently did the same thing. He's like, Kermit would never act this way, yada, which is not true. Kermit is a real asshole if you watch The Muppet Show. Oh, Grant, he has to be. They're all crazy.
He's being passive-aggressive. He's passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
He is. Well, like, I was complaining about how, or supposedly Whitmire was complaining about how, like, Kermit would never tell the Muppets off and then let them continue on their way. He would never leave the Muppets behind, like he did in the Muppet movie, and I'm just like, that's not entirely true. Like he kicks him out of
that movie, The Muppets. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Modern classic.
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%. But yeah, so Frank Oz, and he's been very public too, that he didn't care for the new Muppets, and he kind of did the whole Disney's just doing it to make money thing. But as long as the love of the characters are there and the fans are enjoying it, hopefully they'll go back and check out the real Muppets and that's kind of how he was saying it. So Kyle's not wrong. Frank Oz has been kind of cruel to the new Ragtime, which is sad. I don't think it's against the performers though, because he still hangs out with them and does documentaries and stuff. So,
well, then to be fair, I then saw Knives Out and the lawyer came in and I was like, wait,
yeah,
like I thought he was like 40 years older than he actually was.
Yeah,
Frank Oz, but like based on, like, again, Nick, what you were saying, based on how he talked about like the Muppets and other stuff, I was like, all right, old man. And then like I saw Knives Out and I'm like, Oh, you're not that old. That's weird, but whatever, old man.
Is in one of my favorite movies, The Blues Brothers, as himself. He's a prison warden.
From God. Hell yeah. I love the Bruce.
Can I say that he also has the only good part of the sequel, which is in the beginning, and after that it's all downhill. It's just horrible, garbage dumpster fire. Which is it's the only emotional part of the movie where he's like, not Belushi because he's passed away. Yeah, so I heard of it. Yeah, and he's just like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, you haven't heard or whatever," and you're just like, "Oh, that's heartbreaking." In context, especially if you watch the first one, because he was the warden that. Yeah, but after that, it's all down.
I think there's more good parts than that, but
I'll refocus this to be like, what are your favorite moments of this movie? And I mentioned this to Nick already earlier today. During the moment of One More Sleep Till Christmas, when Kermit goes off screen and Bean the bunny is like shivering in a piece of newspaper. Like, I literally there are only a few moments of media that literally will make me cry anytime I see them. This is one of them.
So, because we were all talking, it was Kyle, my wife, and I were talking before Jess and Amanda came on, before we started the movie and streamed it. My wife is with you emphatically 100%. She loves the bunny, Being the Bunny. And I made a comment, I said, I'll hold off to talk about it here, which is, it's not that the Muppet performers hate Being the Bunny. Steve Whitmire actually enjoys playing Being the Bunny, which is also why Being the Bunny hasn't talked or been seen in a while, because Steve Whitmire's gone, unsadly too. But Being the Bunny, anytime the Muppet creators create a new cute character, the performers tend to revolt and want to punish that Muppet horribly until the next cute one comes along. And there always is another cute one that comes along. And so when they apparently told Michael Caine he has to throw the wreath out, originally I think the script said you have to throw it over him so it just falls around him and kind of traps him. But apparently all the performers were like, no, we want you to fucking wing it at him and beat the shit out of him with it. Just because he's cute and he needs to get the shit kicked out of him. It's a weird... Apparently Whitmire was like, yeah, I agree. Throw it at him. It's a weird, a Muppet... It's a weird troop thing that apparently they've always done since the Muppet Show with Henson. It's a Muppet hazing thing.
Someone's just like, yeah, take that wreath and yeet it at him.
Yeah, and I think the article... I think it was Woosley who shared the talk back about the movie. They were talking about, Being the Bunny, that poor guy. He's so cute. We just beat the shit out of him in the production. Any chance we got, if he was supposed to run and supposed to hit Gonzo and Rizzo, they made sure to really deck the puppet when he ran into him and stuff like that. But apparently it's so sad because Bean is adorable.
While we're talking about production stuff, I wanted to bring up, Nick is intrigued. So I recently read, as I said, my brother and I were discussing a Muppet Christmas Carol recently, and he was like, oh my God, the best part of this is Michael Caine, because he fully commits, and this movie would not work if he doesn't fully commit. Lo and behold, 2 days later, I read an article where Michael Caine had said, and let me see if I can pull up the exact quote.
Professional.
Michael Caine. Oh, I love the Muppets. I love them all.
So he said, I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I'm going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me, which is why this movie works so well, because he straight up is playing against these puppets like they are Royal Shakespeare theater actors, and I fucking love it.
Well, What was it? The little boy, when they, in the flashback where he's a teenager and Sam the Eagle comes in and he's like, yes, headmaster. His look is just more like, I'm fucking talking to a puppet. It's not like Shakespeare is being quoted. It's straight up I'm fucking talking to Felt.
Oh,
yeah, that kid.
American way.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys hear me laugh at that? I laughed.
Well, it's so the Kermit, Kermit comes on stage and there's a tiny child there and he's like, hey, can you do your ABCs? And she's like, ABC, you are Cookie Monster. And it's literally Jim Henson in a Kermit puppet going,
yeah.
And it's so wonderful. And that's why I love it.
Well, that's one of the things I've heard is if people act like the puppet is the person, then it really works. When
these small children, which is this child, and she's you can see her looking down at the person, underneath the puppet.
Kind of reminds me of how we're trained to talk to interpreter or talk with an interpreter. It's the interpreter is the puppeteer, the interpreter is not real. you're talking to the person,
Interesting.
even though this person over here is talking to you.
That's like a deaf person. You're like, you're talking here, but like they're here and they're signing, and you're like, don't look at them, don't look at them, don't look at them.
The nice thing is too is back then I don't think they were as I mean, they're popular, right? Because Sesame Street's been on for years and the Muppets have been going on for years. But back then, I don't think they hadn't hit mass yet. But one of the things that's interesting is that, again, this is like the 60s, 70s, like early version of, sorry, like when the little girl was talking with Jim Henson as Kermit, that was literally like Kermit was popular, I think, through the Jimmy Dean show with Rolf, but like, and I think kind of the Muppets, but it's not really like they're not what they are yet. Like the Muppet movie, I don't think has come out, or anyway, my timeline might be a little off, but the point was they're not as big yet, but at the same time, and I completely lost my thought. It was there.
Puppets as though they're people.
Oh, yeah. So
looking down at children. Hello.
Thank you very much. I remember now. So Drew McWeeny, he is a current day critic. He's no longer with HitFix. He's now kind of doing his own thing because HitFix got shut down, unfortunately. If you like Star Wars, he does a really good article called, was it a Movie Geek 2.0 or whatever, where he introduces his kids to very popular movies like Star Wars, Back to the Future, whatever. But he said one time, I think one of the last Muppet movies, I think the Muppets, he brought his children in, and the Muppets have been around long enough that kids, they might not know them, but they know of them. And it's a weird thing that they know the puppeteer is now there, but they don't really look at him anymore. They look at the puppet.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And he said, it's weird when you do it, but you know you're doing it because, you know, you're kind of doing the song and dance because it's your job. But like my kids, like they know I interview famous people, but like it's like they don't even recognize that the performer's there. They truly are only seeing the Muppets. And I think back then when that little girl was doing that little girl, it wasn't as big as it was then, you know what I mean? So she really was looking at Jim Henson and then looking at the puppet, and like, you don't really know what she's thinking, so to speak, I guess. It's a very weird thing, and it's really hard to do. But since the Muppets have been around long enough, like even if the performers are there, you know, you do, unless you're like the four of us who maybe give a shit about the production value kind of side of things, maybe you'll rewatch it and go, oh, how are they doing that? Or do they, you know, but if you're a kid, you're not paying attention to that at all. It was a weird tangent. I got there, but I felt like it wasn't as worth it.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm glad that we were able to discuss that, because I think it makes a big difference in this movie, the way that Michael Caine interacts. And that they're not Muppets. They're the characters. They're the actors he's acting against.
He's great. He's great with that.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've talked about this stuff before, that the thing that makes comedy work is taking it 100% seriously.
Absolutely.
And committing to it. Like if you play it like you're in a comedy, it's going to be dumb.
Yeah, Jessica, you and I were joking about like Michael Caine when he's with the Ghost of Christmas Present or whatever, like he does the weird like elbow dance where he's like and like he just like has these weird like, you know, dance moves that make no sense. But
I wish we had a video of all of us elbow dancing right now.
Like if you've ever seen the movie, you know what we mean.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's hard too, because and what's interesting about this is that, so in terms of comedy, when you perform comedy, you got to treat it very seriously. But what's hard is that the Muppets themselves, by default, without even talking, are comedy. They're silly creatures.
Their existence.
Yes, their existence is just based on, because they're felt technically, and that by default makes them already askew into possible comedyville. And so like, and I think maybe this ties into why Gonzo works so well, is that out of all the Muppets, one of the, again, I'm not trying to make the joke here, but like one of the more, you know what, I'm not going to do the joke. One of the more stranger of the Muppets, and the one that tends to act strange, is Gonzo. You know, he always does like the weird non sequiturs in all the movies. And here you have him playing it straight, but in a weird Muppety Gonzo way, you know.
But he still is attracted to fowls.
Well, yeah, of course he is.
This is another thing my brother and I have discussed a lot recently, is how, as the Muppets have gone on, we don't get to see his sexual attraction to chickens and other fowls as much. But in this, I like that there's still the line when Rizzo falls down and he's like, oh, I was fell onto a hot goose. Gonzo's like, oh, you get all the best things or whatever. Like he still likes some bird.
Fozziwig's party, Camilla walks by and he's like, oh.
It's like a frozen recipe. He's like,
oh my God.
Which I want to bring this up just because I've seen it on TikTok, which is an app I'm way too old to be on.
Yeah,
there's plenty of people.
Jessica sends me videos all the time.
And I send Jessica videos way too much. But
like you sent one to both of us earlier today.
Yes, I did. So my favorite though is like recently someone has started like being like, oh hey, what are movies that exist? Say like Clueless. This is not a good example, but like Clueless the movie. How would you cast this with Muppet characters?
Yeah, that was a whole thing on Twitter a couple years ago.
Actually, like somebody did a really good job with Phantom of the Opera, and somebody said Phantom of the Opera, like how Carlotta would be Camilla the chicken.
So
the actual Phantom would be Beaker. That's really good.
So when that chat was happening, it was one of those things where I was trying not to, unfortunately, read the chat too often, just because I was losing track of the movie a little bit. But when I did look at it, I know that the Phantom of Paradise is based after Phantom of the Opera, but when you said Beaker, just because Beaker looks so weird in general, I didn't think of Phantom of the Opera. I thought you literally said the Phantom of Paradise, and I was like, oh yeah, that's fucking brilliant.
Phantom of the Paradise is based on Phantom of the Opera.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's some minor differences, like, the devil's involved and that kind of thing, but no, I know. And also, but I thought this is the other reason too, I thought you said that and I misread that as Phantom of Paradise and not Phantom of the Opera, is also because Paul Williams, who is the devil in Phantom of Paradise, came back and wrote the music for Muppet Christmas Carol and did a fucking bang up job, man. Like Paul Williams. Okay, he found whatever your thoughts on, well, careful, I have to be careful with this in terms of like your thoughts on Chris Hardwick aside, his interview with Paul Williams where they talk about how he rhymed with Scrooge, because it's Hardwick, so he does the whole fawns over him thing, but like he gets Williams to tell him, well, my wife was putting on rouge and I couldn't think of a word to rhyme with Scrooge. And then I found this and I'm like, who the fuck finds rouge with Scrooge? Well, Paul Williams does, because he's Paul Williams.
Paul Williams.
Yeah. Oh my God. Paul Williams is amazing. And I don't love the two other songs that got cut of the movie. I was glad they got cut, which is like the Sam the Eagle song, and there was a Beaker and Henson or Honeydew song. They're not bad. It's just that, but like the rest of them, like it just, I don't know. He writes for the Muppets so well. Like, he has like a nice charm to when he writes songs for them. I mean, the Muppet movie itself is just really good. Yeah.
He wrote a song that anytime I hear it, I cry.
Yeah. And
Rainbow Connection. I can just hear the little and I'm just like tears.
Like their first dance song in a wedding, and I was like, okay.
Nick about this, but did I tell you about I was best man in a wedding based on Kermit and Miss Piggy's wedding?
I knew about this.
It was so good. My friends, who are parents of my goddaughter, roped a whole bunch of us into doing this, and like several people had to sing the "Somebody's Getting Married," somebody's getting married. And they like played up on the screen in the church, like all the Muppets coming in and sitting down for the quotes from the movie, and he was so fucking good. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Oh, so good.
Wonderful.
Well, so if for all you Muppet fans out there, and for you guys who haven't seen it, Frank Oz did a documentary called Muppet Guys Talking, where it's him, the guy who plays Pepe the Prawn, whose name escapes me, and I'm sorry, the girl who played Prairie Dawn on Sesame Street. She's technically been with the Henson Company for years, even though it became Sesame Street. And Jerry Nelson, who I think right after they finished filming passed away. But it's them just sitting down and talking about their time, and the most excruciating, apparently the most excruciating thing ever, and Jim Henson would never complain about it, but you could tell he was in pain, was during Rainbow Connection. They actually went to a swamp filled, like he got in a tank, his knees were up to his elbows, and he had like a breathing apparatus with the microphone on in case water started filling in. And he was there for like 6-7 hours.
I've heard about this. Like he had like a bubble.
Yeah, it was like a little bubble. And so that's literally him in a swamp.
If you think about the original Muppet movie, like it literally starts above cloud and goes down and like takes its freaking time to like Kermit, and he's like there.
You could not pay me enough money to do that.
Yeah. Well, and now this is where, because I think that story comes up because Frank Oz talks about how, because the guy who plays Pepe the Prawn was like, hey, is this true or not? Is during the scene where I'm going to go back there someday, apparently it's a campfire scene. Well, they took a page from, what's his name, from Citizen Kane, Orson Welles. They dug a big fucking ditch in the middle of the ground, sat the camera down below, and then made the ditch a wider even still so they could get the camera in there, but then they filled it back up with dirt. In the center was a propane tank, and then the Muppet performers underneath the ground. And Frank looked at apparently Jim and was just like, Jim, what if the propane tank goes up? Like, we're all dead. It'll be fine. Just let's perform. And like,
not pay me enough.
Right? Like I could maybe see myself finagling my mind to do the campfire scene, because apparently they did have plenty of leg room in the pit, but it was just more the fact that it was they didn't have a lot of money to make sure it was 100% super safe. And that's where I go, But yeah, the swamp thing I definitely couldn't do. But if you get a chance, that documentary is really good. Well, it's not like a normal documentary. It's just them thinking about their stories of Jim Henson and their time. But it's really good because you also get like, and Dave Goelz, who plays Gonzo, is in there too. So you get like a weird breath of all the different performers and the ages of the Jim Henson Company. So it's really interesting. But those were, because I love Rainbow Connection too. I love the reprise that they do at the very end of the movie, but you have to get through Magic Shop to get to it, which Magic Shop is good, but I don't love it. I just love the reprise, which I can't think of off the top of my head, which makes me feel sad. But yeah, I adore Rainbow Connection. It too makes me cry.
In a choir last year, or I guess technically earlier this year, this year, the longest year known to man. Like, I guess that was only 10 months ago. It feels like
technically the year's almost over by the time we're recording this. So you're not wrong to feel that way. And also it is the longest year from hell.
Yes.
So.
But I had to sing Rainbow Connection and not cry on stage every time I sang it. It was difficult.
That's hard, man. It's really hard when a song is emotionally connected to you and you got to try to sing it or perform it on some level. I don't, when my grandmother passed away, there was a weird connection with that song and her. And I don't know why my brain associates. Same thing with Mickey Christmas Carol, weirdly enough. The opening song, "Oh, what a wonderful Christmas day." That I will bawl. Like I even maybe 2 notes into the song, I just start losing it. Yeah, it's a weird thing. And I think of my grandma and so you make that interesting connection or just because it's just beautiful and it just touches you on just a general level. Rainbow Connection is definitely one of those. It's really hard because they do the Cancer Cabaret at Mad Lab, and every year I do think for a second, I'm going to sing Rainbow Connection, and I know I would not get through it. It would be very bad for me and everybody.
Oh, we can just cry together, Nick.
Yeah.
I'll cry.
Well, it's already bad enough because I am apparently, he doesn't do the show often, unfortunately, but our friend Dallas, they were doing like the in memoriam part. And I keep bugging Dallas to come do the show. And Dallas is like, I'm busy. I will do your show eventually, but I'm busy. That's the one thing I can do good is I can mimic Dallas. Oh my God, are you serious? But
I'm busy.
I left my body.
But I remember he was standing next to me because when we perform, we would all go around the front so we could watch the in memoriam or watch upcoming acts. Not just that, but the in memoriam came up and Dallas was next to me, and 2 notes into the song that was being performed, and it hadn't even got to any people that I know yet in the thing. And I was just like, ah, and Dallas was like, awkward, Pat. I felt really bad for him because because we've known each other for a while, and he's like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. Like, poor guy. But yeah, man, when a song hits you, it hits you. But it would, yeah.
All right. So final thoughts.
Yes. Well, can I talk about real quick too? Well, 2 things. Sorry, Kyle. Is actually one of these. Actually, I think both of these things you brought up. In terms of a layman, who would you choose? Would you, in terms of the old guard or the new guard, would you have Walter from the newer Muppets, or would you have Robin, who is Kermit's nephew, actually?
Well, Walter is I feel like the new layman for the newer Muppets, like the Muppets from the Jason Segel Muppet from 2011, I don't know.
Yeah, 2011, 2012, yeah.
Yeah. Walter, he's fine. I like it. It's okay. he's not my favorite, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that was interesting because that is a good point, is that in terms of that kind of character, it probably would be like, honestly, if they redid Muppet Christmas Carol today, which, by the way, I hope they never do, but if they would have happened to have done it, I think Fred would have been played by Walter.
No, yeah, he'd been fine. Like, I like, honestly, like, I don't want anything different. I just...
Oh, no, you were just bringing up an interesting point, and I was like, that is a good point, because I feel like they would have done something.
Yeah, kind of the new Robin.
Yeah. And then the last thing that you brought up, I thought it was you, it might have been Jess, was the Muppet Lord of the Rings, like the casting, which it kind of got into...
Would watch 100%.
But now, would
Jess,
you use...
tell us what's your casting? Tell us.
Yeah, please.
Well, Rizzo would obviously be a Hobbit. I mean...
Or your Pippin, though.
Ooh.
Rizzo be the other one, whoever Rizzo isn't?
Probably Rizzo might have to be Marion Pippin.
God, would Gonzo... No, wait. Would Gonzo...
The rest are rats.
Would Gonzo be Frodo, though? I feel like Gonzo might be Frodo.
Gonzo would have to be like a main.
No, Frodo's a little too...
He'd be Samwise, probably.
Samwise.
Because he would do that thing where he's playing against type, which is you expect him to be...
Oh, it would be Kermit.
I feel like Samwise would be...
Yeah, actually, now that Amanda said that, I also, yeah, she might be right. I think it might be Fozzie and Kermit would be Frodo and
Sam.
But that makes me sad, though, because...
I feel like the mains are always, like, not Muppets, but the mains are always, like, people. You know what I mean?
Or,
the eagle could be Haldir.
Or, how about this? You bring back Elijah Wood and Sean Astin, and then you have...
Yes. Wait, let's cast around them, though.
Okay, yeah. So,
who would Miss Piggy would be?
Oh, yes.
Because she can be like, I am the wonderful queen.
I feel like Kermit would be
Elrond?
Unless Kermit was Aragorn and Arwen was Piggy, if we wanted them to stay together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely be
entirely necessary, because I think Miss Piggy would be really funny as Galadriel.
Actually, I'm gonna stick with Galadriel because it's just funnier. You get more play, but I mean, and also you could have Kermit still be an elf too, so there's some kind of a thing going on with, like, if he plays Elrond and head of the council.
Fozzie would be, oh god.
Would he be Gimli?
Maybe Ralph would be Gimli. Or Surly, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you need whoever Gimli is, it's going to tie into Legolas because you need them to feed off of each other, like, really well. Maybe that's Gonzo and Rizzo, maybe, because they do have like a weird back and forth, and Rizzo's super small, and then
Gimli would be, oh god, I can't remember his name. The big Muppet who's like super like...
Oh, Sweetums?
Sweetums, right?
Oh my god. Yeah, I love that puppet.
I once worked with a woman who was the human embodiment of Sweetums.
Awesome and terrifying. Oh, Swedish Chef.
He just randomly shows up out and about, and he's like, "Bread."
What?
No, he'd be Pippi or Marin. Pippin or Marin, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go to a weird place with this. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he would be Wormtongue. Then you could have this weird thing, like maybe whatever it is, it's like they're going to kill a crop or something, and that's when he realizes he should turn on whatever, and he's like, "Where's your burger?" And then he tries to, kill Sora.
You have to be a human being.
Yeah, or you know what? Bring Legolas back. What's his name? Back as Legolas. That seems...
Yeah, there always needs to be a human or two.
Yeah, so we already have Sean...
can have that BDE going on the way Orlando Bloom can.
Come on.
Uncle Deadly.
Yeah. Okay, well, wait a minute. So Sean Bean... Oh, you know what? Fuck it. You should just bring Sean Bean back, too, so he can die.
All of the main...
Even better. Sean Bean back in a role he didn't die in. Just a
The whole fellowship is their original actors, and everyone else is a Muppet.
Okay.
And we get to keep Piggy as Galadriel.
I like that. Yeah, Swedish Chef, it will be Wormtongue, which is a weird choice.
Yeah.
Eowyn, is that Janice?
It's fine.
I haven't watched it in years, but I swear to God, the last time I watched Muppets Take Manhattan, Janice has my favorite, and it's also one of the dirtiest jokes in any of the Muppets shows or movie that I can think of, which is, it's the scene where they're looking for Kermit and they're in the diner, and all the rats and the pigs, all the Muppets are there talking and doing their Muppet thing. And the guy goes, "Quiet, everybody quiet, let's just shh." And the last person you hear is Janice. And I think Janice makes like a weird like gangbang joke. And that's when I said, "I will only handle two of you at one."
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
I didn't get that wording right, but it's something very like sexual and very like, and it's like, oh my God, that is amazing. I would never pick up on that as a child.
The band could all be the Nazgul.
Oh. Well, okay, so
Like,
who's
no
going?
Have we figured that out?
Would we keep Ian McKellen as Gandalf? I mean, he's up in years.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, he is the Fellowship, so there's a part of me that feels like Kermit would be Gandalf, though, for some weird reason.
You know what? I feel like we would really need to keep like the original Fellowship. We would need to
You're
keep
right.
Elijah, and we would need to keep all of them, and we would need to cast all the other tiny roles around them.
Yeah, that's hard too. I mean,
And I mean, like Aramir.
who could be Gollum?
Animal.
Oh my gosh. Well, everybody, I don't even think we have to talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol movie anymore because it's very obvious that like we need to now work on the Muppet Lord of the Rings because
Who is developing? Is it Amazon or Netflix? One of them is trying
Amazon.
to remake this as a series, and I'm like, first of all, why? I love the movies. Second, make it
You
Muppet.
know what? Apparently, Gatsby, the Great Gatsby, is like entering into the fucking public domain in a year. Next year. Oh, we have this. We got
Gatsby, the great Muppet Gatsby. Oh my God. Gonzo Gatsby. Oh my. See, it's writing itself right there.
And he's in love with Piggy and like in the Muppet Babies.
Oh
and
my god.
Gonzo instead of Jay Gatz.
Oh
He's
give Walter a new role to be not Nick, but oh god, what was fucking Toby? What's
the narrator guy.
the actual actor's name though?
Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man. Come on, Kyle. No, I'm kidding.
I'm sorry. You know what, Nick? If in the new Spider-Man there isn't like a fucking like role of the two of them like or three of them, I'm sorry, pointing at each other, I will quit cinema.
They did that joke in Into the Spider-Verse, though.
Oh, I know. It's one of the best. But can I just say, though, it makes me sad that Tobey Maguire passed on that. I think they offered it to him, and he passed on it.
Oh, did he?
Right.
Baby, Boss Baby.
Wait. Maguire's in Boss Baby?
He's the narrator, Nick.
Hate that movie.
They're making a sequel to that piece of shit.
They have a television show on Netflix.
But what I'm hearing is like we need to get hired by Disney. We need to
Yes,
get
that's what
it.
we're hearing.
This episode, I need you to tag Disney and tell them to hire all of us to work for Jim Henson Studio.
We got you, Disney. We got you.
We will bring them back.
You want to talk to Josh Gad? We love Josh Gad, but fuck Josh Gad. We can bring the Muppets back.
Yeah.
Stop it. We don't need Josh Gad. We don't.
In the 5th grade, I started a club of 4 of us who walked home from school after school, and that's inherent to the sentence. But we all picked Muppet characters and wrote our names and our Muppet name on a board on my fort in my dad's backyard.
You had a Muppet Club? Great.
Yeah,
Oh my God, that's
Perfect.
cool. I didn't have that.
I am a giant nerd. Can I just bring it back to Muppet Christmas Carol? There are a few things I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Please do.
Okay, one, I just want to bring up that when Rizzo kisses Gonzo's nose, it is an epic moment in cinema. Love it.
Yes.
2, Ghost of Christmas Past, pure nightmare fuel. My mother thinks that she's cute. She is wrong.
Oh yeah. It's basically, you said it looks like the baby from someone did Twilight movies. Someone said that. Why not?
Where's the
I'm sorry. I apologize. Amanda, you have a very good point.
Okay, second, love Ghost, or I guess I'm on 3rd now. Ghost of Christmas Present, adore him. The way, the texture of his beard, and as it goes from red to slightly gray to full on gray, it's amazing. Like you can see it flowing in the wind. I love it. I don't know what.
Oh, just because you're talking about him, can I just say one of my favorite bits of acting when I watched it, I always see it, but it's the silent nod that he does, and it's kind of like a shake with the eyes and the head. So it's good puppetry. It's good acting where he goes, what is that tiny, something is the child sick? And he just does like a quiet, like, yeah, but he doesn't say anything. Yeah. It's just brilliant. So sorry.
I also love hearing his song when the cat meows.
The Ghost of Christmas Future is scary, but not as scary as the one in Mickey's Christmas Carol to me, because that one literally Scrooge McDuck is like thrown into a grave and hell happens. And then also one of my favorite moments as we were watching this all together is that I do arm movements throughout the entire movie, generally every time I watch it, and Kyle did all of the same ones at the same time, and it brought me great joy.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, oh my God. Yeah. I adore this movie. Like, I'm glad that when I met my wife, it was a thing where we have to watch the Muppet Christmas Carol, because my life feels very fulfilled by doing that every year, no matter what's going on or whatever. It just adds something. And I think that's nice too, is that what Dickens wrote was really trying to, and I think that's why it's so well loved and it's so easy to try to duplicate, is that it's just trying to boil down the essence of that Christmas time, it might not symbolize what some people would like it to anymore, but it symbolizes the one time of the year that, for the most part, people tend to treat other human beings with decency, respect, and love. And there's something to say about that, I think. And I think that the fact that the Muppets themselves are a weird embodiment, a comical embodiment of that, and then they're trying to tell the same story, it's something very interesting.
Well, yeah, I would say, like, Nick, I don't know, everyone else here, what is it about, like, this movie that makes it the best adaptation for you?
I really do feel like it's the performance of Kane, and how, I don't know, it's a weird thing that it has a semblance of the book in it that flows through it, and it makes it feel like it's the book, even though there's some Muppet stuff going on. Like it doesn't feel that way though. At the same time, it feels like a very faithful adaptation. And I don't know. Every time I watch other versions of, like, I love Mickey Christmas Carol. It's my number 2 pick if I had to choose like a top 5 or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're kind of banking on knowing what the story is in that one and knowing Scrooge McDuck. This one is like you're banking everything on how Kane is playing Scrooge, and that's it for me.
I like, Michael Caine, amazing. I love the songs. I really love Marley and Marley. Like, they're so great, and they get their whole, plot point across, and it's like, we were really fucking terrible and we're not really sorry about it, but if you don't want to end up like we did, like we are right now, you should fix it. I love that they're like, we're just here to warn you, but we don't really give a fuck that we were bad. And then I really like the It Feels Like Christmas song, because I think that's something that anyone who celebrates Christmas can relate to, is like, Christmas is, at least for me growing up, Christmas was happy. And it is like, oh, when these happy things happen, it feels like Christmas, because Christmas for us, it was just happiness. No matter what else was going on, it was, we're all together and we're doing nice things for each other. And that is the feeling that you can carry with you all the time. Like, if you have nice Christmases, like, not everybody does, but, and not to say they aren't stressful or whatever, but the happy feeling you get on Christmas is something.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. And to go into that, I think it's the one reason why, tie it back to why I like the Bless Us All part, is that there still is a semblance that in Christmas time, he's still finding joy, because things aren't great for Tiny Tim, but like I think that's a weird reason why, like, as I get older, as each year I get even a little bit older, that song, it hits me more in the feels than it used to when I was younger and watched it. Because I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw it, I was kind of with everybody, or a few other people, where I was just like, let's just cut it. It's kind of slowing things down. And now I'm just like, you can't skip that song. But anyway.
I also think it's really funny that A Christmas Carol is basically responsible for us still having Christmas. Like,
that's true.
Because Christmas was pretty much going out of fashion because nobody had any time to do it. And then it's like, oh, here's this thing. And it also, this makes things make sense of like certain Christmas carols where you're like, nobody tells ghost stories.
Oh, some random thing I just thought of. There is and I apologize. I wanted to say this earlier and I forgot. When we were watching it, the whole line about you might be an undigested piece of beef or cheese or whatever. Oh. About a month or two ago, Sarah and I watched a documentary called The Food That Built America, or That America Built, or whatever. And each episode, it's about an hour and a half long. And they talk about like the Heinz Corporation, Hershey, and a few other places. They talk about, though, ketchup was created because like when they would do, meat would spoil all the time and it would be disgusting. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking, like, how the fuck did we survive this long as a human race when our beef is being, like, back in, jolly old London during Scrooge's time, like, you would get deathly sick and start seeing shit because you would eat bad beef. And so, and I remember growing up, I was like, that line is weird. Why would you see ghosts because you eat something strange? Like, there's the old Garfield joke, like, I shouldn't have ate that spoiled mayonnaise in the fridge, or whatever he says to Garfield. But it made no sense to me now. And now when I first saw that, I was like, oh shit, that line actually means, it makes way more sense to me as an adult knowing that. But that was it. That was a weird little factoid. But was there anything else, Jess, that you were thinking of that you, because I went on a weird tangent there?
No, I just really like it. It makes me happy.
All right, Amanda.
Which also makes me happy.
I'm with you. Michael Caine's performance, I think, really makes it shine. I think the joy of the Muppets and the joy that they bring to everything that they're a part of, yeah, and it's heartwarming, the whole thing. And like I messaged to you guys when we were watching, one of my life goals is to be at the end of a Muppet movie swaying with the Muppets and singing along, because it's just beautiful. Love it. I want to be there.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that's everything that we have to say about anything about Muppets, I would say, too, for right now. Did I not get you?
Treasure Island another time.
I'm totally good with that. That.
Yes.
But yeah, so does anyone have, because I forgot this last time, does anyone have anything they would like to plug? Just FYI, I don't know when this will be out, so keep that in mind too.
I have several podcasts, but the one that's most active right now is weirdly my food podcast, Pod Appetit. We're even like part of a network and shit. It's real weird. And yeah, you can find us at pod_appetit a lot of different places, and check it out. We talk about food media. Currently, when we're recording, we're covering Great British Bake Off, but we've got lots of fun.
So can I just point out that my editor, Will, he loves your guys' show. Matter of fact, when he did one of those weird things, he's like, wait, Amanda on the show, she sounds familiar. Is she the one that's on Pod Appetit? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, really? I love, yes, he loves your guys' show. Yes, it was awesome. It was really cool. So yeah, but Jess, do you have anything you would like to plug, my dear?
Well, by the time this comes out, I don't know, maybe go to madlab.net, I guess, to see if anything's happening at that point in time. Some of Amanda's podcasts and Nick's podcast.
Yeah. And
I was going to say, if you want to listen to some of my other podcasts, Kyle and Jessica and Nick have all been on them. Just go to amandaagogo.com.
Is the link to Pod Appetit on that website as well, or no?
It is. It's in also hosted by Amanda, and there should be a link to.
Gotcha. I'll include a link to Pod Appetit anyway, but I'll remember to include that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys all very much. The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky is presented by D4K Studios. Executive producer is Nick Argenbright. Co-producers are Ashley Carlson and Catherine Ranella. The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky is also made possible by our Kickstarter backers. To see our backers, check out our show notes over at gbgpodcast.com. Our theme and end credit tracks for The Good, the Bad, and the Geeky are by chiptune artist Hide Your Tigers. You can check out their music by going to hideyourtigers.bandcamp.com. We also feature the track from Futurama, The Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings, an arrangement by our own Nathan Haley. If you enjoy our program, be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts and to leave a review or subscribe to wherever podcasts are streamed.
Get out of here without cheese! You're a creep! Go away! We're having a good time until you showed up, cheapers! Go have some coffee with cream or something! Because I'll tell you something! This is a happy place!